my own channel, which nobody watches, but I'm going to go ahead and just upload it anyway when I get to work. But I want to get back to the thing about Milgram in the Bible. It's really about authority. I used to talk a lot about authority. Authority. What is authority? You know, the Bible is authority. It's an authority. It's like the standard of which you are supposed to follow. But here's the funny thing is everybody interprets things different. You go to different churches. Let's say, well, I'm talking specifically about Christianity, of all the different various kinds. You know, different people believe different things. I mean, no two groups of Christians believe exactly the same thing or even hold the same ideals. And people, I was just thinking, I was watching an episode of House, and House was bothering this guy who was Mormon. Like, what about the magic underwear? What about this? And what about that? And the guy was saying something about, well, the church is changing. There's a more progressive attitude and whatever. Yeah, but, they used to believe that black people were part of Satan's group. And they used to believe this, and they used to... But, people change their minds. See, one thing that changes is, does God change his man? Does God decide something different today than what he thought? It's like something Wayne Dyer said. Maybe it's true. That God is not thinking anything any different today than he thought 10 years ago. Is God thinking something different? In other words, has God's mind... if you actually thought about that for a moment, that would be kind of a profound thought for a minute. Does God change his mind? What was God thinking, let's say, during the 1950s? Now here we are in the year 2013 going into 2014. Is God thinking any different today? Is he looking at the world and thinking, let me think about that for a moment. Maybe I should change something. Did God change his mind? Did he change his mind? And if he does, how do we know he's not going to change in the future, But that's neither here nor there. Just throwing that out as a thought. Because I like to talk about religion. But I know I can't do it on YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to put this up on YouTube. I'm a contradiction in terms. But it's not a discussion. If somebody writes to me like, oh, let's have a discussion. Only if you say something really important and intelligent. I take the position that God exists. But I also take the position that the stuff in the Bible is just stuff people made up too. Now, I'm not going to go into explanations of why do I believe in God. Because I think it's actually not important. Let's just simply, I'd like to say, take the position God exists. In the same way, if I were a defense attorney, I take the position that my client is not guilty. I don't know. He may have done it. He could have decapitated that person. I don't know. But you know what? I'm taking the position, and I'm going to fight it and argue it all the way to the end. And, and let the jury decide. What I personally believe is not important. I think people focus, and it becomes battles of personality. I like good intellectual discussions. That's why, at first I thought on YouTube, when I got on YouTube, that I would actually find that I would find people who actually had very important intellectual discussions. But that's neither here nor there. Forget it. I want to get back into the thing I said about authority. And about Milgram, the Milgram experiments. When somebody in position of authority tells you to do something, you do it. I mean, people do that. I think the Milgram experiments show that. I was thinking about this song by Peter Gabriel. It's called Milgram 37. And I think the 37 refers to 37 people who went all the way with that thing. If you ever saw the experiments or saw any videos of it, where they had to flick these switches and each one increased in voltage. It started like with 1 volt, 2, and it went all up to 450. And then the little things they had written, dangerous, don't go past this, lethal, and so on and so forth. And so people, and they had an actor on the other side who was like reacting and pretending like he was getting shocked every time they flicked the button. So the people who were flicking the switches actually thought they were giving a shock to someone, when in fact they really weren't. But 37 of those people out of, I don't know how many people he did, went all the way. To, even after the person stopped screaming because they figured maybe he passed out, he's probably dead. But because the person administering the test kept telling them to go ahead, kept encouraging them to do it, they did it. They did it because somebody in a position of authority and power told them to do it. Well, that's what I think it is in life. We always want somebody who has authority, that we perceive, and the key thing is perceive. We want somebody who we perceive as having authority to tell us what to do. Because right and wrong is whatever an authority tells you. You really decide the right thing to do is whatever the authority tells you to do. The wrong thing to do is to go contrary to them. So some people are so conditioned to never stand up, to never say, follow what they know in their heart to be right. You say, no, this is not right. Let me stop. I'm not going to do it. A lot of people learn not to do that. They learn to just do what they're told to do. In the song, Peter Gabriel song, if you listen to that song, you keep saying, we do what we're told. We do what we're told. You keep doing what you're told to do. Everybody does what they're told to do. They tell you to throw somebody out of the house, you throw them out of the house. They tell you to do this to that person, do it. Ruin this person's life, you do it. Well, my boss told me to do it. And when it's all over, that's what everybody does. I think Milgram wanted to understand why the Nazis do what they were doing. Why could ordinary people do horrible things? Some of the people were killing people and doing things, pushing people up. Because somebody in a position of authority told you to do it. That's why. Not because you believe in all this stuff. Not because you believe in the ideology. I think it's the same thing with religion a lot of times. People don't just do things because they actually believe the stuff in the Bible is true. They do it because someone in a position of authority told them to do it. They act because someone in authority told you to do it. Contrary to every feeling you have, every instinct that tells you not to. It's like with Jonestown. Jim Jones tells you to drink this cyanide and give it to your kids. And some of these people are giving it to their kids, babies. Like this one guy was describing what happened with his wife. To take a little eye drop or whatever and putting the poison in the baby's mouth until the baby starts foaming at the mouth, reacting to the cyanide. It's like, because Jim Jones told you to do it. It's not even, the person may not even believed in any of this shit Jim Jones told you. But because Jim Jones said do it, you do it. He tells you to do it, you do it. And he conditioned people. One thing I do know, because I remember I read about this, they actually practiced that. There's a lot of things people don't realize. That they actually rehearsed doing that thing with the cyanide. They kept rehearsing it over and over again and when the day actually came, they knew what to do. They actually knew what to do because they had practiced it. And so they just followed through. And once they started seeing people actually dropping dead, people still kept doing it. Why? Because Jim Jones said do it. The boss said do it. He knows what he's doing, so, we don't question that. He knows what he's doing. That's the thing. That's the real issue to me with religion. Dogma. Two things I don't like in religion. But I'm not anti-religious. One thing I don't like is dogma, and the other one is this slavish obedience to authority. But that's true about other things, too. Not only religious stuff. But we'll get into that later at some other point.